Welcome to the Real Estate Show on KMED. March the 18th is our date. Pete Belcastro with you here in KMED. I'm Principal Broker with John L. Scott in Southern Oregon. We get together with you once a week here on KMED. We'll talk about all sorts of real estate-related issues and topics. And through almost 8 years and 400 shows, we've never really run out of things to tell you about the real estate market. It's that big, it's that dynamic, and so diverse when you really start bearing down on it. And today may be one of those shows. So welcome here. Joe is off this week, and he'll be back next week. And again, happy post-St. Patrick's Day to you around the Rogue Valley today. Well, as we talked about earlier, the access, when you go back into time, I suppose around the Rogue Valley, people remember the term access and access food shares and all these groups that kind of formed out of access, and they're still around and still doing great work. We're going to hear from them in just a couple of minutes here. In the meantime, Jill Tompkins is in the house, and Jill's now a retired sales and marketing director with First American Title, and is part of the Rogue Valley Association of Realtors venture and work into the Food and Wine Classic, right? You've been doing that a long time, right?
Yes, 7 years. This will be our 7th annual Food and Wine Classic, celebrated next Thursday.
Yeah, the 23rd of March.
23rd at the Inn at the Commons.
Yeah, which is where it was last year as well.
Yes.
So this is important because it raises money, Jill, for what?
Well, actually, Pete, we work through the Oregon State Housing Foundation, and it's
the Home Foundation.
The Home Foundation, correct. And that is funneled through the RVAR, which is the Rogue Valley Association of Realtors. All of the funds that we raise stay local, and we use Access as a screening agent to help the people that come to Access for housing needs.
So if I understand that right, the realtors raise the money. It goes up into the Home Foundation, and then Access really gets to spend the money that the realtors make, right?
Yes, and put people into their homes.
That's a pretty good deal for Access to do, is to get to be able to spend money, right? I mean, that's what we raise it for, is to be used, and that's why the other two people are here in the room today, and that is Jodie Barnes with us from Access. Jodie is the easiest way is to call you as a housing counselor, I think. So, Jodie, welcome to the show today. Nice to have you here.
Thank you.
Housing counselor, and you've been with Access a few years now, too. In this,
6,
yeah?
yes.
And like, just as we get going, are you busy? I mean,
we're slammed.
Slammed.
We're very busy.
We're going to hear about some of those programs and why you're so slammed. There's got to be some reasons why you're so busy, and that's what we've got to explore a little bit today as well. Also here today is Joel Vollmar, and Joel is the housing director at Access, and nice to have you here as well. You've been a long-time Access person.
Correct. Yeah, I've been there right about 13 years now.
Yeah, in a housing director, that's a lofty position there, Joe. So, what is the housing director at Access? What does that do?
So the housing director position actually oversees all of our housing programs within the agency. Okay. So the programs that Jodie's going to talk about today, our first-time home buyers, our down payment assistance, our foreclosure counseling, overseeing all those programs, as well as the properties, the affordable housing properties and units that we own, as well as the low-income weatherization program that we administer. That's an awful lot.
And what's so interesting about it is that it sounds like you do a lot there. As the government, I don't know if government should be doing any of this or not, but you guys have kind of taken this role here as a kind of the mediator or the facilitator or some role there of this part of this really critical part of housing, right? Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah, administering these programs that otherwise, may not even be here. So, yeah, absolutely correct.
What do you two see as the biggest need right now? What are you swamped with if you're so busy? What is kind of the market telling you for the assistance there? What are people seeking, or what are they trying to do out there?
I think we need more affordable housing for the community income levels that we serve, because we are a community action agency and we serve low to moderate income.
Okay. Tell me what that means, though, Jodie. What does that mean?
People who live on Social Security, people who live on disability, people who try to work minimum wage jobs and function in the world and still want to achieve the dream of owning their own home. Mm-hmm. We get money from RVAR and very gratefully disperse it. But unfortunately, with the income level and the fact that there aren't a lot of homes available in the price range for the people that we can income qualify. We can qualify them. They have no home to buy because there's not that much on the market in that price range.
So you're seeing the inventory problem that we talk about as realtors all the time, also down at the level of trying to find just a home for a first-time buyer there as well.
Absolutely.
Boy, what do we do with that? I mean, I don't know what the solution is there. So again, you have people, you can qualify them, et cetera, but finding a place and in the price range, as we said, look in that $150,000 to $250,000 price range in Jackson County, you have a 0.5 month supply.
Right.
That doesn't bode well, does it? For success.
No.
Yeah. And what are people coming into you, and what are they seeking right now?
Well, they all come to us seeking down payment assistance money.
Okay.
And a lot of the grants that we have, RVAR being just one of them.
Okay.
They have to income qualify, and they're all grants. So they're money to help them get into their home that never has to be paid back.
What's the biggest problem? Is it down payment money? Or closing money for these buyers, or what seems to be the biggest issue that they face?
After finding a home in the price range they can afford.
Well, assume they've done that.
Yes, the problem is that, this society seems to not be big savers in this day and age.
Okay.
And so a lot of them don't have the savings or the funds for down payment and closing costs. So they come to us for help with that.
And one of the other problems that you see also in a market like this is that sellers, back in the day, certainly if not that many years ago, sellers were paying closing costs for buyers. But that is not happening much today. At least in my experience, has been reversed there. So you see that also.
I see that sellers don't contribute as much. We do see in the lower price ranges that they will, give a little bit and pay some of the closing costs.
Yeah.
But the first-time home buyers are still very in need of additional funds to help them get into their first home.
Now, someone told me that they had a client who went through the Access program, and they said that they ended up somewhere in the neighborhood of $5,000-6,000 in contributed towards their closing costs and prepaids. And I said, I was taken aback by that because I didn't know that was even possible. Is that possible? A person can't, if they do it, if they follow what you do,
yes,
that's possible to get that much or even more.
That is absolutely possible. We have programs that we can give up to $10,000. All of this is needs based, so we don't just give them $10,000. But and we also have down payment assistance money right now available for a veteran. If they're a veteran, that they can get up to $15,000 in down payment assistance if they're a first-time home buyer.
Okay, go back and say that again. I want to make sure people hear that because we have a lot. I know Guy Giles does a lot of veterans loans, and he's on our show pretty regularly. So say that again. A first-time veteran. Okay?
A first-time veteran, or a veteran who is a first-time home buyer that needs down payment assistance and income qualifies, could receive up to $15,000 in down payment assistance money.
Well, that's pretty. That's
huge.
Pretty good. Have you ever had anybody
huge.
actually do that?
Oh yes.
Really?
Oh yes.
Wow. Well, see, those work then, don't they?
Yes, they do.
Never get anybody
we do have a hard time finding veterans that income qualify.
Okay.
So that seems to be the biggest hurdle in that down payment assistance program.
Tell me about the income qualification part of it. I mean, we have a lot of low-paying jobs. I mean, we don't have we're not Silicon Valley kind of things like that. We have a lot of that. So tell me what are those parameters that you work with?
I believe that the parameter for the down payment assistance right now is $53,400 a year.
A year. Okay. All right. And that's that or below, right?
That or below. Yes.
Okay. Well, you see, I mean, there's a lot of people that qualify for that, and they can pay the payment, correct, on a house like that.
Correct.
And so that's what you're really looking for. Yeah. And they're out there, and people are coming to you. Now, a lot of you may not, as our listeners, it may not be you that you're qualified for this, but you may know someone.
Right.
You may have your kids or whatever, again, you're not going to co-sign with them, remember, but these kinds of programs can help them with that and get into a place. Mm-hmm. Or you could even sell it to them yourself or whatever in terms of buying a house or wherever right. that they go. Do you deal with any of the USDA kinds of loans or any of that kind of thing or help that type of person?
Access doesn't actually do any loans per se,
right.
but we do down payment assistance money that is involved with a USDA loan. So if a borrower is working on getting a USDA loan and they meet all of the qualifications for the down payment assistance, the down payment assistance money works with almost all types of mortgage loans. All types of loans with it. Mm-hmm. We're talking, by the way, with Jodie Barnes from Access here in the real estate show today. I'll also hear Joel Vollmar is with us and Jill Tompkins. Today's show presented by the Rogue Valley Association of Realtors. You have a home ownership center. Mm-hmm. That's a cool area. That's kind of a one-stop shop. Is that what you guys have created at Access? Yes.
All right. And so today, you said so far that you're awfully busy. You got people coming in. And tell me what a first-time home buyer to you is, because I've heard different things. That if you tell me what your definition of a first-time home buyer is. The definition for the grants that we apply is that the buyer cannot have owned a home within the last 3 years. Right. So that's the same as a loan kind of thing to qualify. Mm-hmm. So again, just because we say first-time home buyer doesn't mean that's the first time you've ever owned a piece of property. Correct. It's just if you have not owned a piece of property in the previous 3 years. Correct. You qualify for these, then that assistance could possibly be available to you. Correct. Now that seems pretty, that's not as tough as it seems, right? Right. All right. Now I've also heard, you guys tell me this now, that you have to take some sort of classes. That is absolutely. Or a class or something along those lines before you're going to ever, see any of the funds, right? Correct. Okay, so tell me what that's about. So Access offers 2 types of first-time homebuyer education classes. We offer a live class, which is called the Realizing the American Dream. Okay. We do that class. Appropriately named. Yes, we do that class every other month. It's an all-day class on a Saturday. We partner with RCC, and we rotate. 1 month will be in Medford, 1 month will be in Grants Pass. Okay. That class gets you the certificate that you would need to come in to a housing counselor and be reviewed for the down payment assistance. We also have the eHome America, which is an online course that a first-time homebuyer can take if they can't make it to a live class. Okay. Of course, there are fees involved in both of those. They are minimal, but they're you got to put some skin in the game. Absolutely, kind of thing, and they are very much worth the education that you're going to receive. When you go out and start looking for your first home, you're going to know the questions to ask. You're not going to get the wool pulled over your eyes. Right. You're going to be very educated at what you're doing. And we've told people, over the years here, this is going to be the biggest purchase, that you may ever do in your life, and you don't want to mess this up. I mean, you want to do it smart, and that's what you do. So it's just the class then, and you can take it online or in person, and that's really the qualification to come in then to start that process. Correct. And the people who are coming into you then, Jodie, tell me, are they young people, old people, families, individuals? Tell me what. We get an array of all types of people, older, young, families, singles, for people that are just newly engaged, and we get all gambits of. And how successful are they who come in, and how many actually do you fund? Or do you know even how many dollars did you put towards all of those programs that you guys do there at Access? Well, I only brought numbers, unfortunately, about RVAR. Oh, okay. But over the past year, starting January of last year through yesterday, we funded 33 families with an average purchase price of a $162,000. 162,000. It's $5,187,578,000 in purchase in purchase price prices. And purchase sales. But 33 families, 33 people were held. That's pretty good out of that. Yes. And what was the average? Do you know what the average grant was or total was for that? Or was it? You may not. I'm just curious as to what that is. Well, the RVAR grant is just $1,000. Right. So.
it's $1,000 per person, but the majority of the people on this list actually did get more than just the RVAR.
That's great, though. I didn't even know that was even possible. So that's really good to know.
They can get as much of the money from any of the pots of money that we have that they qualify for, as long as there's a needs basis.
As long as the basis is there,
Right.
they're going to qualify for that, and it can increase. Certainly today, what a help that's going to be, because as we've said, buyers are going to have to mostly bring the closing costs to the table because sellers don't really have to. So what a great opportunity for people to do that and get that purchase there. Well, anyway, we're going to take a break. Coming up here in the Real Estate Show, we're talking with Access today, all about their housing programs with Jodie Barnes and Joel Vollmar. Jill Tompkins is here from RVAR, talking about the Food and Wine Classic. We've got a lot more show coming up here on KMED, and we're coming right back after this. The Real Estate Show rolls on KMED. March the 18th is our date. Pete Belcastro here with you. Don't forget, you can check out any of our past shows at realestateshoworegon.com. They're all there for you to listen to and watch again. Some great shows on there. Everything from when do you repair decks and roofs to from our good friends at Better Build Construction, age-friendly innovators, Airbnbs, vacation rentals, appraising, inspecting, and everything else in between, it seems like we've had on the last few weeks. So check those out at realestateshoworegon.com. Today on the Real Estate Show, presented by the Rogue Valley Association of Realtors, they've got a big event coming up, the Food and Wine Classic on March the 23rd. It'll be at the Inn of the Commons. Jill Tompkins is here. Jill's retired now from sales and business development at First American Title. You were there a long time. You were in that business a long time, weren't you? You like that?
Yep, I was 21 years.
21 years?
Locally here,
Yeah?
yes.
And do you miss it?
I do.
You do?
I really do. I cannot drive down a street and not notice who's got what for sale.
Yeah. Well, you'll never get out of that one for sure. Is that? And of course, Jill is also. Are you the co-chair, by the way, of the Food and Wine Classic?
Yes, I am. Cerise Stevens from Windermere Van Vliet and Barb Pulver actually started this 7 years ago, and it's grown into, I think, the biggest fundraiser that RVAR does.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's a big event. You got like 400 people coming to this thing, right?
Yes, we do. And we have 30 vendors, a mixture of food, beer, wine, and now we have Immortal Spirits and cider this year for one of the first times. Yeah.
And you have some corporate sponsors that join with the realtors to do this. So, I mean, that's great. Who are they?
Well, we started out, we were very fortunate to have the West Foundation and the Cheney Foundation support us from the very get-go, and they continue to do that. But this year, we're very excited to have other corporations join us, including Southern Oregon Subaru and Channel 12. They are going to be not only participating, but also donating. So we're just so happy for that.
And you got there's an auction there, and there is also silent auction as well, correct?
Yes, we have 54 bundles of auction items in the silent auction, and I believe around 9 or 10, it keeps growing on the oral auction. So.
Yeah, well, I have to give one of my. I've been actually out recruiting realtors to buy my Italian dinner,
and it is delicious.
You know that because you were there last year. You can attest to that.
My friend Mary Van Horn bid and won on your Italian dinner for 10.
Yeah.
And it was absolutely delightful.
Yeah, we got to raise the price this year. So I'm trying to get more realtors to say,
there you go.
What a deal this is. I'll come to your house. We'll cook for you, kind of thing.
And so, you clean up, too.
Clean it up and do it all. Anyway, so, that'll be fun. It's March the 23rd at the Inn of the Commons. So it's coming up this next Thursday. It's a big event. It goes along with what we talk about realtors giving back. This year's RVAR bowling tournament earned $4,475 for the Home Foundation. And then the Josephine County Valentine's dessert they put on raised $9,500 as well. So that's just a little bit of realtors giving back. And this is the good time of the year, I suppose, to do that here as we go into spring. But today here on the show, we're talking with Access because they're the beneficiaries of some of the funds that is raised by RVAR in terms of their housing programs, first-time homebuyer programs. So Joe Vollmar's here. Now, Joe's the housing director at Access. You've been there a long time, but I would think that, housing in this valley, as you know, is just in a mess. Is that a fair statement to say? I mean, you see it from a whole different viewpoint, I think, than I would or Jill would maybe. Maybe you and Jodie see it. Tell me what your impression is.
Well, the housing needs in the valley, are just not being met. So, affordable housing, which, I would define affordable housing as housing that people would be able to afford within a reasonable percentage of their income. There's a huge lack of affordable housing in our community right now. And I think a big piece of that is tied to the inventory for both rentals and for homes for sale. Because, in rentals, people are asking astronomical amounts, and you're seeing people get evicted. You're seeing people facing relocation issues, and they're not being able to find other places to move into, and they're having to relocate to areas far out of the area just to continue to keep their job in our local community.
Tell me what you define it as affordable housing, because I'm always confused on what that means. Is affordable housing rental housing and ownership housing, or how do you define that? Again, both of you can feel free to gap here.
So I would definitely define affordable housing as rental and home ownership as well.
Okay.
So the biggest issue we're facing in the home ownership market right now is that even though the prices have rebounded, construction really hasn't. The construction you're actually seeing, the new construction you're seeing, is really, custom homes. So it's higher end homes, things like that. Yeah. So we haven't really seen any builders coming back, building tract homes, building houses that are affordable for the working class in our community.
Now, a tract home, okay, Joe, it seems like are $265,000, $250,000 to $265,000 is a new home. It seems like it's going to be is this the cheapest you're going to get? Is that kind of close? Or tell me what you think. What?
I hope not, because our community that we serve, the low to medium income,
that's not going to be affordable for them. Do you see? I mean, I'm trying to think. Is there any new construction that has been out there that is going to be in that lower affordable price range?
There is some. I think immediately of the project out there on West Main Street, out by Bimart.
You're talking about the apartments out there.
Yes. So
okay.
So that would be a rental situation that possibly could be affordable.
Is that affordable housing in your guys' viewpoint, Jodie?
As long as it's designated as affordable housing and there's set percentages of their income that they're not paying more than, I mean, it would be considered affordable housing.
Were there people who went into those apartments as affordable housing? Do you know? I wonder.
I don't know personally.
Yeah, I'm not aware.
And well, it's interesting, isn't it? Now, you also own homes. I mean, you also own housing. Is that from Access,
right?
Access
owns and or manages about 200 units of affordable housing.
Now, that seems to be a lot. I mean, 200 units. But you shake your head, and it's really not.
200, for the community we live in, for the population in our community, it's really not a lot. There's been studies that have been done over the past year or two that say that, we could probably manage to get, 400 to 500 more affordable housing units for affordable rentals. And it would just start to make an impact on, the rental market in our community.
So that you have that much demand for that. And it doesn't seem like it's going to go down either, because we see a lot of baby boomers like me, we're all retiring, et cetera, et cetera. And where do we go? That's my thing. Where do we go? We can't all go to a Brookdale and go spend, $2,500 a month or whatever, $5,000 a month to live there, right? I mean, it doesn't do that.
Right.
So we're looking the other way.
Well, and I'll tell you that one of the biggest things that we're seeing right now is there's a lot of people who are in rentals that are finding that it's going to be cheaper for them to actually purchase if they can find a lower priced home and go through our programs and actually buy. So we actually are seeing increased interest in our first-time home buyer programs and our down payment assistance programs. We're seeing more interest right now than we've ever seen.
Well, and that follows the regular real estate market as well there. Exactly what you're saying, Joe, is yes, if you're paying these high rents, you're better off to buy. But again, we have nothing to sell. There's not much out there to sell. But condos and these kinds of things, we just don't see them being built, do we? We've just not seen it.
No, you're not seeing smaller houses. You're not seeing condos. You're not seeing duplexes. You're not seeing townhouses built. We're seeing custom housing built. That's where the contractors are going to make their money right now.
Now, who built the place the new apartments across from down by the Mail Tribune? The units down by Jackson ESD downtown. Those were all new units. Weren't those affordable housing units or something like that? Well, you guys,
I'm not sure.
Okay, well, okay, I think they were there. Okay, my point was, do you guys build some more? Can you build some more? Is Access going to take this role on? Do you see that in the future?
Well, we're part of a community discussion as far as trying to meet the needs in our community. We currently have a 17-unit veteran complex in development right now that should open before the end of the year. And we are looking at opportunities to develop and build moving forward as well.
Well, I think that would make the smartest thing of all, is to partner with somebody to do that or whatever, because the need is certainly not going to go away, and we haven't done a very good job of keeping up with it. So that's for sure. Well, anyway, we've got one more segment to go with an interesting discussion about the housing needs for so many of our fellow residents here in Jackson and Josephine counties. They really do need some help here. They've got to figure this thing out somehow. We're coming right back to KMED with Joe Vollmar and Jodie Barnes, Jill Tompkins right after this. The Real Estate Show continues here on KMED. March 18th is our date. Pete Belcastro with you here in the house at KMED. Hope you're having a good month of March as we're into the busy real estate months of the year, March, April, and May. The only thing kind of lacking, it certainly isn't demand. Well, the demand is out there for housing across the board. I mean, we're talking all levels of pricing. We're not just affordable that we're talking about maybe today, but even in the upper ends and things like that. Interest rates have risen a little bit again. Next week, Guy Giles will be in the house, so we'll talk with him about that. Don't forget, you can check out any of our past shows at realestateshowOregon.com. Today on the show, Jill Tompkins. Jill Thompson is here, retired from First American Title, one of the co-chairs of the Rogue Valley Food and Wine Classic that takes place next Thursday at the Inn of the Commons. And we'll get Jill's comments here at the end of the show to make sure you go to that and support that for all the good things that the realtors raise money for. And Jodie Barnes, who's the housing counselor at Access, along with Joe Vollmar, who's the housing director at Access, are here with us today. There's a misconception, I think, of what affordable housing is. I don't like that term, Joe. I wish there was a different term we could use, because I think it's a misconception of what people's perception of affordable housing is.
I think you're absolutely correct. I think a lot of people, when they envision it, they think about a property that's non-maintained,
right,
that's blighted, that, it's just going to bring down values and things like that. And I think that's where the biggest misconception lies. I mean, if you've got entities like Access or the Housing Authority or people like that developing projects, and they're actually maintaining those, they're developing those, they're aesthetically pleasing. There's studies that have been done throughout the state and throughout the country that have actually shown that these housing complexes can actually raise values in your community, and then they actually are well maintained. They're very nice. People who have been opposed to these in the past have actually bought into them later and say, you know what, this is great. I love this in my community. I
mean, we talk about we want diversity of everything in our communities, and housing, I think, is part of that. And I think it just gets a bad rap. I mean, just in Ashland where I live, and there's some wonderful, beautiful of those affordable housing complexes. And again, I hate using those terms, but they're beautifully kept. And there's been years now that they've been there. And so anyway, I agree with you there. I wish we had a different view of that, but we still need those units, is what you're saying.
Yes.
And you guys own a couple hundred of them, but it doesn't do it. So you said that you are partnering, you're looking at that, trying to develop more yourselves, because I think in the end, Joe, that you guys are going to have to develop your own in your own complexes with people.
Oh, I think you're absolutely correct. I mean, there's discussions going on right now as far as collaboration and bringing people to the plate and figuring out how we can partner with developers throughout the community or between the agencies that are currently developing housing, how we can partner together and try to get more of them built.
Yeah, and the developers, it's my own opinion again, and the developers in this valley and the owners of some of these complexes need to step up and help Access do this, and the Housing Authority of Jackson County and Josephine County, because the need is not going to go down. And we got a lot of people who are moving here, and the demand is here. And what are we going to do with people if we don't? I mean, it scares me. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen, but it's a real problem. So good luck to you, Joe, for your work on that. And we'll talk to you again about how far you come next time you come into the show. Okay, we'll see you're done.
Thank you.
Jodie, before we let Jodie Barnes go, the first-time homebuyer program again, $53,000 is the income qualified, and yet many people are coming to you for this assistance. Mm-hmm. And first-time homebuyer does not mean you've never owned a home before.
That is correct.
3 years. So if you've had a foreclosure, a short sale, or something in your past, those can be erased and you start over. And this is a possibility to do. You have to attend one class or online class, and you're there.
You attend the online class or the live class, and then you come into a counseling appointment with a housing counselor.
Program for veterans?
We have a program for veterans. We have programs for non-veterans. And we actually have a long-term savings goal program to help people if they're not wanting to buy immediately, where it's a state program that matches their funds. So we have a lot of programs.
And we've
available.
certainly learned that the first what do you call them, the buyer assistance, the closing assistance,
the down payment assistance.
Down payment assistance and the closing cost assistance. That can make a difference for so many young people or even older people. It doesn't really matter.
Right.
Depends on your situation. But and you say up to, for veterans, can get up to $15,000. So you've got a range to do this.
Yes.
So there's no excuse, right?
There's no excuse.
No excuse. You got to come in and do it, and the possibilities are endless then. Because once you start, isn't it true? You've probably seen clients. Once they've been successful, get their own place, the sky's the limit.
That's right.
Because we talk about on our show, the average renter has a value, a personal value of around $5,600, where the average homeowner in this country has a net value of over $180,000. That alone tells you something right there of the differences. Also about affordability and what you can pay for something where you live or you don't. So it's all kind of, we talk about supply and demand, all about the market. Boy, this is just perfect. I think it really does show what we're at too. I mean, before we get out of here, we're going to come back to Jill. So did you agree with all this stuff we're talking about? I mean, you've seen this over the years too, haven't you?
Absolutely. And I think one of the areas that we didn't touch on as far as development was all the senior living facilities that are
large
going up.
senior complexes.
Yeah, so that's eating up a lot of the land that normally would go to a smaller home subdivision.
Yes, and the senior places, I mean, they all have a role to play.
Oh, of course, yes.
But you're right, they take up a lot of space and a lot of land, and we're not getting the housing. And when Joe Brett goes to these hearings all the time, with the city of Medford and the county, and trying to get units. And you're right, Jodie, neighbors fight them. They have this conception, oh my goodness, it's going to do this and that, and it's not. And so we got to we got to overcome this, or we're going to be in this housing crisis that we are. And renters, I mean, there's not enough rentals. We see when they come in and talk to us, you want a 3 and 2, you can't even find them, or you got waiting lines and all these other things. So we really do have a lot of ways to go before any of this is solved, right?
Right.
Jodie, how can someone get a hold of you if they'd like to?
They can visit Access's website at accesshelps.org, or they can call Alicia, who is my intake specialist, at 541-774-4305. So
the best way is to Google probably you at accesshelps.org, right?
That is true.
And they can go down to your office. And you guys are still located there over
We're behind Costco on Aviation.
That's right. Can I drop in there too to also talk, or do you not do that?
You can drop in. You take your the chances of somebody not being available to speak to you, but we always have materials that we can give to you, and then you can call us back with questions. Okay, well, that'll be good. Well, good luck to you. And it's great to hear that people are taking advantage of the program and advantage that of the Home Foundation and the down payment assistance programs. It's wonderful. That's really good to hear that people are doing that, and so the money just doesn't sit there. That's the worst thing. You raise money for something, and like the Food and Wine Class, again, it just sits. Nobody uses it. That's not good. You use it all the time. So, Jill, well, best of luck to you on the Food and Wine Classic.
Thank you.
Bid up my dinner, okay? We want to raise lots of money, and we'll see who gets it. That'll be kind of fun. I'll tell you about that next week.
We'll let you know.
All right. Nice to meet you, Jodie and Joe as well, and we'll talk to you soon. That'll do it for the Real Estate Show here on March the 18th. Hey, you all have a great week. Happy St. Patrick's Day the day after to you as well. We'll talk to you next Saturday. Have a great week, everybody, and God bless you all.
You've been listening to The Real Estate Show on KMED Radio, presented by the Rogue Valley Association of Realtors, along with John L. Scott Real Estate of Southern Oregon and Bank 34 Mortgage. For guest contact information, download our free app, or to watch a past show, visit us online at realestateshowOregon.com. This show is produced by Table Rock Productions. Join us again next weekend for Southern Oregon's one and only Real Estate Show on KMED. And thank you for making the Real Estate Show part of your weekend.